Hi guys, and welcome to the CX Centric Podcast, where I get to speak to customer experience leaders from around the world. Today I'm lucky enough to be speaking to Katia Hernandez, who's expert in patient experience, so that's doctors, nurses, the hospitality sector, etc. And she is based in Mexico. Katia's already had a long career supporting VPs, CEOs and COOs in order to transform their organizations to become more customer centric. Her work is focused on staging patient experience to create loyal and committed customers. So, Katia, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jonathan. How are you?
Listen, I'm very, very good. And yourself?
Great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Listen, it's so good to have you on the podcast. Maybe you can start off. Can you just maybe give us a glimpse of your personal life, please?
Well, yes, as you said, I'm based on Guadalajara in Mexico. I'm married since 5 years ago, don't have kids, and I used to live in Mexico City. So now I'm working here in Guadalajara, developing nomadic company strategies and really focusing on improvements for patient experience in Mexico.
Wow, that's fantastic. And in Guadalajara, what is it like in terms of the COVID situation there?
Well, we have had a lot of incidents since all this began, but we're doing not as good as we would like. Of course, some of the people are still working from home. Hospitals have enough capacity to receive COVID patients, but we are having trouble attending all the other sickness from patients. So everything has been delayed and other kind of surgeries. So patients are not as good as we wish.
Okay, I see. So it's a difficult time at the moment.
Yeah, it is. Mexico, it's, where resources are limited. So we need to be very intelligent and focus on the priorities. And seems that now the priority is just COVID, but we must not forget that there are other needs in the patients that need to be covered as soon as possible also.
Yeah, it's really good to speak to someone who is looking at things from a holistic perspective, which is important. Before we continue, maybe it'd be good to know a bit more about you. Like, what are your hobbies? What do you enjoy doing?
Well, I like to share that I'm a dancer.
Oh,
I was all my life. I practice. I'm a ballet dancer.
wow.
And after I decided that I was not talented enough, I decided to move on to salsa. So now I'm a salsa dancer and a and I have my yoga practice, which is helping a lot at this time.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is yoga. Yes. Okay,
Yes.
that's very,
Mhm.
very cool. So I guess salsa is a lot easier than ballet.
Well, not necessarily. You always have a partner there, and you know that the man is the one that leads everything. So if you have a good partner, then you look like a queen, the dancing queen. Otherwise, it's not that easy.
Okay.
So at least in Mexico, we don't have so much salsa dancers. But well, when you have a good partner, then you all guys do everything in salsa, honestly.
Okay, I see. I see. So thanks for explaining that. Let's get into things. So you are an expert and you are consulting on patient experience in Mexico, which is a fascinating area. I'm really excited to get to know more. But just for the listeners, how would you define patient experience?
Well, there are a lot of definitions around the world and around any institution that is focused on patient-centered practice. Ours in Nomadic, we have defined it based on the Verils Institute definition, which is the global organization that is making an excellent effort around the world regarding patient experience. So our definition is the sum of interactions that a patient lives through their medical interaction in each point of contact. So that's the way we define, in at least in nomadic patient experience. So it's about considering perceptions, sensations, emotions that the patient lives through this kind of contact.
That's very interesting. Just from my perspective, what sort of attracted you to patient experience in the first place?
Well, I have been focused on customer experience matters during my career, so 80 years now. And I lived like 10 years ago, I had a personal experience. My dad, my mom, the dog, and myself were very sick all at the same time. One with a heart, my dad had a heart attack. My mom had a very pneumonia and other complications. And I had a neck surgery, and the dog was depressed. So all of us were at the same time in different hospitals. And honestly, it was very difficult time from the financial point, because medicine in Mexico is so expensive if you don't go to a public hospital. And on the other side, I was sitting down and waiting for someone to provide information, provide orientation, some human experience around this. And it was very difficult. So my thought were, I was thinking that if we were doing so many efforts in other kind of businesses as the one I have been working on, it was kind of depressing that no one was doing anything in the healthcare sector. So that's why when I decided that someday, somehow, I will be creating methodologies and applying my knowledge to the healthcare sector. And that moment came 5 years ago. And that was inspiration. A terrible experience in myself, but now I see it as a master, my MBA.
Oh, I see. Thank you for sharing that. I think that is very inspirational because when you normally interact with the healthcare sector, you're normally in a low moment, you're not well, it's a difficult moment of your life, and then especially when you combine that with family members and pets all together, and then what you've done is you've seen the problem and you've come and actually decided to be a solution to that problem, so this is really inspirational, and I really appreciate that. So maybe you can tell us a bit more about what you've been working on, like in your professional life recently as a patient experience consultant.
Well, it has been a hard work because no one in Mexico is doing something so specialized. Everyone or consulting firms are really oriented on customer experience, but not patient experience, which might be similar. Principles are similar, but the thing here in patient experience is that the needs are very different, because it's when you're so vulnerable as a person. So many different things should be considered. What we have been doing is developing methodologies that can help hospitals and CEOs of hospitals to understand and measure how patient experience is in their hospitals, in the places they provide this service. And the other important thing is that we have been focused on the medical doctors and on the private practice. At least in Mexico, doctors can be able to work in two main sectors: the public healthcare and the private sector. So we decided to focus on the private side because there they can, first of all, they are charging for a service, which is kind of similar. If you are paying for something, you are paying and expecting something.
Yeah.
So we needed to create differentiators for every practice, because every doctor is different. So doesn't matter if it's the location. What we want, are focusing is on developing these methodologies to make them and help them to understand that they can be different. They don't need to be unique, but they can be different. And depending on their patient and kind of practice they are offering, they can provide different value-added factors to their patients. So for us, the medical doctors are the important ones right now. We have also been working with important hospitals here in Guadalajara, and with laboratories and in training, but our main focus right now is to create conscious on the medical doctors that are providing their private service.
Wow, this is very, very fascinating. Especially the part about the laboratories. What sort of
Mm-hmm.
work are you doing with the laboratories exactly?
Well, laboratories, I mean the one that are taking the test, for example, as COVID. We are our methodologies is always based on three main factors: people, process, and spaces. So that's the order in which we consider that the experience should be organized and developed. So first of all, we focus on the team players, on, I don't care which point of contact, but the people involved in a healthcare should be humans. They need to have this human side, because sometimes, as ridiculous as it sounds, they are not prepared for providing this kind of service. So people is the first thing. Then the processes, developing processes, for example, in the laboratory, taking COVID testings or other kind of testings, make it easy for the patient and make it easy for the family. As I was saying, it's very vulnerable situation. So if it's, besides being you are going to be harmed, sometimes it's not nice to go to, no one goes to this kind of service happy, no one. So um, make it easy for the patients and the team players. It's the second phase. And the third one is provide spaces that provide dignity, because when you are waiting, time is so long, and it seems that 1 minute can be 1 year, because you are so stressed waiting for a result or waiting for attendance, and you are nervous, you are pressured, maybe you don't have time. So all of these factors, doesn't matter if it's a medical doctor, it doesn't matter if it's a laboratory or a hospital, all these factors play a very important role in our experience design.
Wow, this is fantastic. It's really interesting that you're sharing this. Maybe you can give us some examples of organizations who have used actionable insights to grow their business within the patient experience sort of sector.
Well, yeah, let me share maybe a doctor's office with very customer-centered practice, but without the definition of an experience. When we discuss with them our service, we always invite them to choose the kind of experience, and we divide that kind of experience in 6 main divisions. So they need to focus on one. For example, if they want to provide a service experience, if they want to provide a quickness experience, or if they want to provide luxury experience, all of them have different characteristics, but the thing that they have in common is dignity. So, for example, there was this doctor that was full in his schedule, was completely full, and he thought that this was okay and that everything was working fine. But when we made his diagnosis, we find out that he was not profitable enough, first of all. Then the waste of resources was big, and the patients were not as happy as he thought. So when we put all this information together and presented him, after it takes 1 or 2 weeks to complete this information for us, and then we presented to the customer, in this case the medical doctor, and he found out that he was not realizing and noticing all these factors. So we made some important changes on training his team, the nurse that was helping him, the assistant that was receiving patients, the service that he was providing through the telephone, the service that he was providing in the digital point of contact, all the factors that the patients were facing when they arrived to his location. And the surgeries, there was no organization for him. So everything was done like just as it arrives, scheduled. So that means losing money also. So if we look at it from the financial perspective, it's also important for the medical doctor to have this organization. It's not, yes, it's human, of course, and the first thing that we take care of, but it's also, at least in Mexico, the way they live. So it's a job, just like for the others one. So, well, after 1 year, we can say that after implementing and deploying some of the strategies that we recommended to him, make it easy, train people, and create a totally different space, his numbers are amazing. So in terms of surveys for the feedback that provides the patients provide, it's completely different. So they feel that someone is taking care of them since the first call, which is totally different from the past. On the other side, the financial KPIs are amazing. So, and his quality of life, by the way, which now with the COVID thing, I think that we are all noticing that medical doctors are important in our lives. So and they also need free time. They also need to recover. They also need to have rest. And if they don't have a financial and organized life, they won't do that. So when now that we are after 1 year, he's able to take vacations. So as ridiculous as this can sound, it's important for us as patients and for them as doctors. So, and finally, the space looks completely different. We feel very proud because now they are opening a second office, because now we can say they are successful. And it's not just because they have a full schedule, but they have differentiators that help the patients to recommend the service and to recommend the attention they receive, not just by one doctor, but in the whole place and the whole experience.
This is fantastic. And I remember last time we spoke, you mentioned that you were involved in you don't call it an off, you call it a medical center redesign. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can talk us a bit more about your approach to that also.
Yeah, well, regarding spaces, as I said, the first thing that we consider when we are redesigning something, we look at all of the needs of the doctor, because not all of them use the same tools, not all of them have the same needs. And we look at them carefully, what they need, what they do, what they use, the time they take to attend their patients. That's very important, because if that's not defined, which that will mean that the next patient will be waiting, and waiting in the healthcare sector, waiting in any customer experience is terrible, but waiting in the healthcare sector is terrible for the patient. That's not considered, of course, like a good experience. So we consider everything. We measure times, so we can define the exact time that takes a consultation from the medical doctor. Some of them need, for example, a bathroom inside because the practice requires a bathroom for a very better experience. So after we do this, and we have all the needs and requirements documented, then we propose a complete, well, not completely different space, but just considering all the facts. So we can look and organize and provide an organized view to the patient, something comfortable. We consider the five senses. So everything you look at, everything you are watching on the screen, everything that you touch, everything that you are listening while you are in there. So we are very careful on each of the details. And we propose this new space, and they like to make some little changes. Honestly, there's no huge changes after we propose. And finally, we began building the new consultation area.
That's fantastic. Little change, big impact. I love that.
Yeah.
So before we end, I'd love to know, so what sort of challenges do you encounter on a regular basis which are specific to patient experiences, and what best practices or tips do you recommend?
Mm-hmm. Okay, the main challenge is the medical doctor. They are sometimes they are not easy. This, and this is a very important fact. I don't really get why medical doctors around the world, they don't receive this information when they are studying. Some of them, we have discovered, they don't like to be in touch with patients, and that's not bad. Just that's just the personal thing. So they are excellent surgeons, and it's mainly on surgery matters or practices. Excellent surgeons, but they don't like to be that much time with the patient. So the first challenge for me is that these patient experience principles should be shared with the medical doctors, but before they begin this long career, because there's a long way for them. So, for instance, if you don't like people, then maybe you're not going to be a good doctor. So no one is sharing that with them. Maybe they are focused on just service, or they create this fantastic idea about being inside the body, but you also are inside the soul, which is not taught to them, and they face this reality when they have to start their own practice, and they notice that they have to be a customer or patient centric experience, or to take care about the humans in other way, not just the medical way. So yes, the first challenge in my own experience is the medical doctor needs to be convinced that the patient experience is not something fantastic, or it's not something that should be written in a document, or it's not related with business administration. It's a reality, and it has an impact on the patient's life and on their own life, by the way.
Wow, that's fantastic. I really like that, Katia. And how do you go about convincing them, opening them up, and just expressing this reality to them?
Well, we have a first phase in all of our projects, which begins with diagnose, several tests. That honestly is not for us, it's more for them, and they realize where are they standing related the patient experience terms. So it's sometimes when you make a question to someone and they don't have an answer, or they get surprised and, oh, no, I don't know that term. No, I haven't thought about it. No, I don't understand which that means. No, I don't know how to do it. So when they finish answering all these questions that we have to make conscious, and that's the real reason, they realize that they need our help, and that some changes, sometimes major, sometimes little details, can make the difference.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with me, Katia. And are there any more challenges specific to patient experiences that you would like to share with us? Because while we got you on the line, we got so many people in the audience who are like, they've either relatives with COVID, they understand, or, everyone interacts, with the healthcare sector. So all really keen to hear what sort of challenges are you facing specifically, because you're very unique in Mexico tackling this issue. So please let us know if you have any more sort of challenges and what you do to sort of overcome these.
Well, yeah, as Mexican, I can see that we are, sorry to say that, but sometimes we are delayed on the service matters. Um, we are a country that is very friendly. I think that we are known in the world as friendly persons. But on the other side, we have a lot of opportunities in providing service and measuring service. So a huge challenge is making people understand that if you don't measure things, you won't be able to change anything. And this also applies to the healthcare sector. So we need to understand what the patient feels, what the patient needs, and also make the medical doctors to understand they need help, that they are not the owners of everything. They are experts at their own practice, but on the business administration matters or patient experience matters, they don't know everything. So sometimes they need help, but as they have been working so hard during all their lives, they think that they can solve everything by themselves. And you know what? We have discovered with all of the doctors that we have been working for, that we prefer them to be focused on their medical practice, doing the surgeries, doing the job they love, instead of trying to have some ideas that will not be deployed or implemented because they don't know how to do it, and they shouldn't know. I mean, it's not bad that they don't know, but they just need to let people help them. And I think that's the most important challenge. Doctors, please let us help you.
Well, this is interesting because, normally, like, we have a saying, trust me, I'm a doctor. That's the saying that we have. It just means that, if someone's a doctor, you trust them, and they spend so long studying, learning, practicing. So, I'm guessing, does it get quite difficult to work with the doctors, to open them up and get them in a place where they are able to listen to you and receive some of the good knowledge that you have to give them?
It's a completely challenge, but when I can say that once they are convinced, they become very loyal customers, and that's something we feel very proud about it, because I mean, we just have 4 years in the market as Neomedic company, and it has been a long way, a hard one, but once they provide their trust to us, they don't let us go. So we feel very proud about it. But because other important thing is that patient experience is not something that you do once. it's a permanent effort. You need to be changing, you need to be adapting. So things were very different 5 months ago without COVID. For example, just the spaces, they have to be changed. If you didn't have before defined the timing of your schedule for each consultation, now you need to, because you can't have as many patients in the waiting room as you were able to have them before. So, well, yes, a lot of changes have to be done from now on, and we hopefully receive the trust of other medical doctors that need to that understand and realize that we are in a different age of terms of customer experience and patient experience, of course.
Yeah, Katia, I love this. I think you touched on a really important point here because within the icon process, the last is nourish. And what we say is that customer experience is not a one-time thing, an initiative. Yeah, you need to continue to invest in your customer experience, understand that things are changing around you. Yeah, understand that the environment's changing, the way customers want to interact with your products and services is changing. So you've got to keep nourishing the experience. So it's really encouraging to hear the way that you are really supporting these doctors and these healthcare companies in Mexico. So this is fantastic, Katia. Do you have any more challenges maybe one more challenge that you want to share with us before we bring this to a close?
Yeah, for sure. The situation in hospitals or institutions, not in private practice, but in hospitals, is also very different. I think that they have a different approach because they become influenced by, in our case in Mexico, by the United States culture and best practices. So it's starting to change, and there are several institutions that are making their first efforts, which is good. And we proudly have been working with one of them here in Guadalajara. And it feels fantastic when you see that people really have these principles in their mind. It's something that they don't know they have to use these terms or these practices. It's just that they don't know how to do it, and the order and the importance of having a culture based on processes and improvements and on measuring. So it's interesting in the hospital sectors and institutions that they are starting to do a good job. So hopefully we'll see some different perspective in the hospitals in Mexico. We hope so, and we hope we can be part of that effort too.
Katia, I love what you're saying there, especially the importance of having some structure. Obviously, a lot of times, in terms of customer experience, if you speak to anyone on the street, they'll say, yeah, we understand what customer experience is, and in your situation, patient experience, obviously a doctor will know what it is. Overall, they'll have their own sort of idea of what it is in their head. But when you actually sit down and you begin to map out, these are the activities I need to do to make sure I really understand that patient experience. This is the different things I need to do to say, okay, here we are lacking, here we need to change, here we need to improve. Let's design a better experience. When you start doing that and going from a place of sporadic to something more structured, then you start to see some great results. So I really love what you've said, and I really love the fact that you're really supporting the healthcare sector in Mexico. I really wish you all the best with this. Before we end this, maybe you can let us know how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for medical doctors, we have a specific website, which is Neumedic, NEUMEDIC.online, which they can directly hire our services, which is one-on-one sessions or the diagnosis phase. And well, we have a 3 minutes chat, which they can participate in. And we have our complete site, which is neumedic.mx. So they can find us also in Facebook as Neumedic Company and Instagram as Experiencia Neumedic.
Fantastic. I think I will put these in the show notes so that everyone can get them. Katia, really, really was fantastic to speak with you. Fantastic to learn about patient experience and fantastic to see the good work that you're doing over in Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. My pleasure.
Okay.